what's next for the Sixers team? And do you think it could be Daryl Morey getting fired or Nick Nurse possibly getting canned? Where do you think it's going?
I was just discussing this with a friend of mine who's a big-time Sixers fan, and he's saying that Nick Nurse should get the axe. And I said, well, what is Nick Nurse supposed to do? Joel Embiid is your leader, your go-to guy, and he comes in and he's hurt. And it was obvious that he wasn't the same guy. So you don't have your best player, who, by the way, there was a lot of noise earlier in the season that he was showing up late to practice, shoot around, team meetings, and Tyrese Maxey was like, come on, dude, you're our guy. You have to set the example. We follow as you go. And so you start off on the wrong foot there. I don't know what a coach can do about that. How's that out coaching? And then you get Paul George, who decides that, hey, I'm going to shove the podcast 58 games into the season when we're in 11th place. Doesn't make much sense. And so somebody's head is going to roll. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. Somebody's head is going to roll. And it's probably going to be either Daryl Morey or Nick Nurse. Now, do you want to go through another coaching change after going just firing Doc a couple years ago? I don't know what does that serve? What's best for Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey? I do think Daryl Morey could be gone because you go all in for Paul George, where there's a lot of noise with the Golden State Warriors acquiring Paul George. And, when I was working at 95.7 The Game full time, I was saying, do not trade for Paul George. Bullet. No, this is not the move to make. That's not the move to make. And you look at what he's making this year, $49 million? He's got a max deal with a player option. He's 35 years old. So I think it starts with Nick Nurse or Daryl Morey. And now I don't run the Sixers, but I would probably clip Daryl Morey. And I try to move Paul George. I try to get off of that contract ASAP and rebuild around Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. Hopefully you get a lottery pick, and I'm not sure what the pick situation is with the Philadelphia 76ers right now. I believe they could keep their lottery pick, right? 1 through 7 is protected, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So 1 through 6. So, if you could get your lottery pick in a draft that looks pretty good right now, hey, rebuild around Embiid and Maxey and let Maxey get more in the rope. Quentin Grimes could be a gem. That's a hell of a trade, right? Get Quentin Grimes for Caleb Martin. That's a hell of a trade. Quentin Grimes looked like he could go. Yeah. He's playing well right now for the Sixers. So I would build around those three, baby, get that lottery pick and start from scratch. But I would try to move off of that contract of Paul George. You have to do that. I think that could be more so a priority than saying moving off of Daryl Morey or Nick Nurse. So somebody's head's going to roll. There's no doubt about that. But I would also try to move off of Paul George as well.
I completely agree with you, man. And then I think it's the head that's going to roll has to be Daryl Morey. At this point, Marcus Morris was talking to KOC in a pod yesterday, and I couldn't help but notice, but Marcus Morris was very passionate about his disdain for Daryl Morey. And James Harden had his moment with Daryl Morey, calling him a liar. Chris Paul has been on record to talk about his lack of personal skills and social skills. At this point, I think the Daryl Morey experience is like the Moneyball thing. It's like this was a fad. The analytics really drove the business decisions. While that's fine, I love analytics and what it does for basketball and improving the game and making it more efficient, optimizing all of that. But you still have to have a basketball feel. And I can't get the sense that he has a basketball feel. Elton Brand has been crickets through this entire experience. Haven't seen him in a presser. Haven't seen anything. What is he doing to help the basketball side and building a culture of winning and leadership and just a team that can functionally do something? And for him to decide to lock up Joel Embiid, knowing that his knee was messed up from after the playoffs, going into the Olympics, and then reward him with that contract, that was strike one. Right. Then you go out and pay Paul George, a declining star, max money, strike two. Now, you did hit Daryl Morey. You did hit on Quentin Grimes, Tyrese Maxey, and Jared McCain. Peace to you for that. But can't absolve you for everything else that happened, because the moves that he made and the contracts that the financial impact that he has going to these players that are aging, declining, and hurt, it's gonna hamper this franchise. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tyrese Maxey was like, yo, a couple years, this ain't what I'm looking for. I'm trying to win, figure out a way to get me out of here. They got to figure out how to convince opposing teams. Paul George is healthy. He's still got something left. go trade for this man, and then rebuild around Tyrese Maxey. I don't even know that you need to even consider Joel Embiid as a part of that, because at this point, you're just hoping that he can come back healthy from whatever knee ailment he has, because it seems pretty unique, because it sounds like his meniscus is a wrap, and a lot of conversation around he may not return to the MVP form that we once saw. So at that point, I'm like, you're invested in Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain.
That may be a guy Grimes, who you move off.
Let everything else happen.
You move off of Joel Embiid. You may have to do that, considering the money that's left on his deal.
Yeah.
And you mentioned his meniscus. That could be a move to where maybe you have to bite the bullet and say, you know what, let's abort mission. Let's abort mission with the whole process thing, because that could be a thing where you can't count on him to play not only 65 games, but last year
that's out the window.
I mean, how many times have we seen him gone down? You know, like the physicality of the playoffs, the intensity. It's a worrisome deal with Joel Embiid, and it may be a wrap for this version of the Philadelphia 76ers. Make a great point there. And then the whole Daryl Morey factor. You know, we watch those Houston teams where they basically ignore mid-range jumpers, which is insane to me. This is basketball.
It's right.
2-point shot is okay. Get back on defense. Play defense like this misnomer that the Warriors were just so 3-point heavy, blah, blah, blah. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant were hitting mid-range jumpers left and right. Sean Livingston hitting mid-range jumpers left and right. Don't ignore the mid-range game. SGA right now, look at him. Mid-range game. Cade Cunningham, mid-range game.
Kevin Durant.
Luka Doncic, mid-range game. Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant. Devin Booker, mid-range game. Jimmy Butler, mid-range game. It's okay to take a mid-range shot. It's basketball, folks. You know, so I respect all the analytics and I respect all the data, but at the same time, they're not robots, all right?
Right.
You're not just shooting threes and going for layups. No, you can shoot a mid-range jumper to loosen up the defense. You have to be a threat in all areas of the floor, whether it's 2 feet from the basket, 15 feet from the basket, or 30 feet from the basket. Be in a triple threat position and shoot the ball, whether it's from 15 feet or 17 feet. So that whole philosophy that Daryl Morey had in Houston, that he's trying to imply to Philadelphia, like, it's ridiculous to me. It's okay to take a mid-range jumper, folks. Kids, you don't always have to shoot from 25 feet. Shoot it from 12 feet, 15 feet. If it's a good shot and you're wide open, shoot it. It's a basketball play. So those Houston teams drove me crazy, man. And it's not James Harden's fault.
No.
It's the philosophy of Daryl Morey. And all of a sudden, James Harden says he'll never trust Daryl Morey ever again. So there's that.
It's funny. That's very ironic, right? And I think that was a great PSA that the game of basketball, and there's a lot of conversation at the league level of like, how do we, reduce the amount of threes? How do we get the viewership up and all that? I'm like, just get back to basics. Get back to having basketball. And like, you can do that by allowing more physicality. Bring back the hand checks. Like, that's what you want to be able to stop all this and get out on the shooters. Like, you got to be able to give more wiggle room to the defense. And back to the Morey thing is like, I feel like he has played with a lot of house money because he got Harden right. He was the one that was like, yo, that guy is a superstar. I'm going to make him a system and an offense. And he's been living off that ever since. Because this man hasn't really won that much. They got to a game 7, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But since then, Morey hasn't delivered that much for franchises. So the fact that he got this job, I don't think we've seen enough in the Philadelphia era that he should stay. And he's been pretty much just letting Nick Nurse take grenades all year for Joel Embiid and answering all the questions. Just lacking of accountability to me is not something that, if you're a Philadelphia franchise,
I'm with you.
And you're looking right across the street at the link and a well-run organization by Howie Roseman and everybody over there, it's time to go. Change it up, switch it up.